Hey guys, welcome back to Thriving in Love podcast, the podcast that challenges the status quo so couples can thrive as their authentic selves. Today on the show, I am so excited to have Nyquii, a sacred sexuality coach who empowers women to step fully in their divine power. Nyquii, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here talking with you today.
I have so many questions for you because I have
Okay.
just been on this emotional intimacy journey with my partner. And I feel like I'm being really called to enter this new sexual, sensual intimacy era. I'm excited to dive in. But before I ask questions, I'd love to hear your journey. How did you get started with this work? How long have you been on this journey yourself?
I'll start right at the beginning. For a long time, I think that my sex practice as like a younger woman was feeling very unfulfilled. It was feeling kind of empty. I just was feeling like, what is this? Is this what the hype was about? So
Yes.
I didn't feel as connected as I wanted to. And I am definitely showing my age here, but there was a Jenny Jones show back in the day, in the 90s. I was a young teen, and there was a sex expert on there that talked about the statistics of women that were not orgasmic during
Wow.
sexual
Yeah.
intercourse. And as a young girl, I wasn't sexually active. I didn't know much about sex, but I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Like, so some women enjoy sex and some women don't. And it kind of just fascinated me. And when I started my sex practice, I was not orgasmic at all.
Wow.
And just to kind of sum it up, during a period where I was not orgasmic and then going from a period to being extremely orgasmic, I thought, wow, this is fascinating. I even remember having a
Yeah.
conversation with my gynecologist. I'm like, hey, listen, like, am I doing okay? Like, what happened to me? And she was like, well, praise you that you are highly orgasmic now. But she said, that she couldn't really explain it. She said it could have just been, this was before I had done any research. She said it just could have been, my experience with sex and learning about what I liked. So I did come to find out that it was about that and a whole lot more that kind of started my sacred sex practice.
I want to know all the more.
Yeah.
What is it
So
in that more?
one, they talk about, you have to have a comfort level in order to really fully experience your sex practice in a sense.
Yes.
And you have to have a partner that knows what they're doing. So I guess that can be a huge part of it, the partner. But I've come to learn as a woman that is very much embracing my femininity, that it has much more to do with my own spiritual,
Yes.
sensual, intimate practice as like a divine feminine woman. In the way that I receive sex, in the way I receive pleasure, in the way that me and my partner connect, because
Yeah.
the best sexual connections for me have been the loving ones, and the sexual experience is just so much more explosive because there's a respect and there's an energetic alignment. So
And
of course
safety, right? Yeah.
absolutely. And it's like it's that, this man that covers you and loves you and honors
Hmm.
you and really enjoys this space with you is such a different level than just someone kind of using you for a period of time.
100%. Or
Yeah.
even just like the work that I do is a lot with married couples who
Mhm.
feel like they lost that initial spark.
Yeah.
And it's because they have stopped seeing it as something that is a moment to connect.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's more so a checklist item to
Yeah.
check off because you're married.
Yeah.
So, like, how would you recommend, or have you been through a period like that where you've had to reframe that mindset around sex not just being something that we enjoy for a moment of time, but it's actually a sacred practice that can unlock portals?
Yeah. Well, so I did also during my journey into studying and learning about sacred sex, I practiced quite a bit of celibacy. So I just
Hmm.
had periods of time where I was very much just focused on myself, what it was that I was looking to experience, and what my needs were.
Yeah.
So during that time, I think I really realized the first thing I realized, which was actually impressive, was just because I'm sexually active doesn't mean that I have to be. So I had to really
I
get
just
comfortable in
so
that,
powerful.
right. Like
Yeah.
I had to get comfortable in that space of like celibacy, and
Hmm.
really just kind of saying like, okay, yes, my body can function in a sexual space, but things are not lined up for me right now. Things are not
Mm.
aligned for me right now. It's okay for me to take a step back and kind of take a beat here. I don't have to
And
engage in this.
were you in a relationship when you did that?
No, I wasn't. I was dating, and
Yeah.
the person that I was with, I was feeling at that particular moment a huge disconnect. I guess there's like, it's just kind of a difference between like having sex with someone. And it's kind of feels cliche, but it's like having sex and then having sacred sex. I felt like I was connecting with this person, and he was mainly in it for himself. He
Mm.
really didn't care who the other person was, it seemed like for me. And it wasn't
Mhm.
personalized for me, and there was no energy exchange. There was no respect in that space, in my opinion, in a space where you really feel like, you know what, I want to connect. I've always said to people, I feel like being able to be intimate and have sex with someone that you love can be the highest form of that love expression.
I agree.
When you're in a loving relationship. And I almost got to a point where I thought, I want to have sex because there's love. I
Yeah.
really got to that space, and anything outside of that I felt like wouldn't really work for me.
I mean, I think that's why everybody always says your body is a temple. Make sure you're very cautious and clear about who you're allowing into your energy, into your
Absolutely.
body. Everything it's so connected with like how much self-worth we have for ourselves, how much self-respect we have for ourselves. And it really is a journey of self while you are learning more and more about who you are, why you're here, what is your purpose, what do you care
Right.
about, what are your values, what do you care about so that you're not just settling for any partner who is ready
Right.
to
Right.
be there for you.
Absolutely. And during my journey too, I really was able to say like, I don't want that. I don't really
Mhm.
like that. I don't prefer that. And you know what? So I'm also a poet. So I write all the time. So I've written beautiful poems about the way I want to feel from sexual experiences. So I
Wow.
kind of was able to really say like, if I can write about having this experience, I wonder if I can have it. Being this woman who's
Wow.
kind of like, this is interesting. My body's interesting. Women are interesting. I my body was blocked. My body was blocked from having pleasurable sex in a sense, right? When I was
Mhm.
having sex that was not orgasmic. So then to go from that total opposite of that and being very orgasmic, I'm thinking to myself, what is there more? What else is there? Could there be more to this? So when I started to have these almost fantasies about this very beautiful, very like energetically, spiritually aligned and connected sex that was full of like beautiful orgasms that didn't need a name or didn't need an origin space, or, they were just powerful and kind of born in love. I was like, this can probably happen for me. I want this to be what my practice is about, and that's what my sex practice is.
What was the work that you did to actually integrate that and embody it so that you can experience it in your reality?
Yeah. So I think the biggest one for me was realizing that I wanted that. Kind of removing myself
Yeah.
from sex is for the man, like
Yeah.
I
Detaching
thought,
from
yeah,
centering the man. Yeah.
yeah. I felt like, this experience is really great for him. I'm lovely, I'm attractive, I'm going to make him feel really good, and then he's going to be happy with me. He's going to be pleased. And
Hmm.
really, once I removed myself from that and thought, like, my body has much more power in this space, it really came from that realization and meditative work and, chakra clearing. I feel
Yeah.
like really being able to disconnect from relationships and or people that I wasn't to be connected
Yes.
to anymore.
Yeah. And
So
creating enough space within yourself
yeah,
for that magic to come in.
I truly feel like, and it just feels magical to be able to talk about it, but I really feel like me leaning into my feminine energy has such a big role here for me as well, for me to really embody
Yeah.
this very powerful sexual practice, really
I
leaning
want
into that femininity.
I would love to go deeper into your definition of what it means to be a feminine in her
Hmm.
power. And like, I really want my platform to dismantle this whole idea that feminine means being soft and
Yeah,
subservient to her man and things like that. And like,
yeah,
yes, and so like
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So for me, embodying my feminine energy is really owning what I feel as a woman, right?
Mhm.
Like owning my empathy, owning my kindness and my loving energy. Like I think that we move through our daily lives as women and we have so much love, even to strangers, that we can give.
A
And I
woman's
just,
love is unmatched.
it's really, I feel like I radiate a magnetism. And
Yeah,
for me, that's my femininity. And a big part of my feminine practice is also very sensual and very sexual, but it's not degrading for me.
yeah,
It feels very powerful and very empowering for me. And I think I step fully into my feminine power when I realize how powerful it is to be a woman, and really just owning that beauty in our nurturing ability. I
yeah,
don't think that there's anyone that can, and I take so much pride in this, and this is me radiating my femininity and really owning it. I don't think there's anyone that could come to me with an issue and I not give them some kind of solace.
yeah. Because we
That to
hold
me,
that space, that nurturing space.
absolutely, absolutely.
And when I realized that power within me is when I was able to finally take my husband off the pedestal and understand that he needs me just as much as I need him. Like he needs me to
Mhm.
hold that nurturing space for him
Right,
and like not in like a mothering way and like having that fine balance, but
right,
also creating that space where it's like we've been told let the man lead and all this stuff, but then there is a point where like I think the whole internal journey, our inner journey, our emotions, our heart, our kindness, our empathy, I lead all that. I expand my husband's heart every day,
right.
whereas he helps me lead in like my masculine energy where it's like okay, how are we, creating more abundance in our finances
Yeah,
and in
absolutely.
our
Yeah,
reputation, what have
absolutely.
you.
It's
So
it's like
yeah,
a
it's
beautiful,
a
it's a
dance.
yeah, it really is. It's a really beautiful
Yeah.
connection because there's really just qualities that both the feminine and the masculine possess that the other one does not. And I would
Yeah.
never want to. I would never want to
Same.
possess truly innately masculine characteristics. It would taint my fragrance of femininity almost. But I can move in that space with the lead of someone who's masculine that I can trust.
How do you balance that without like losing yourself? You know what I mean? Like make sure that you don't lose the feminine because the world that we live in right now doesn't really, they're starting to, which is really nice. But
Yeah,
I feel like the current world that we live in doesn't value things like empathy and kindness. And you can't really put like a monetary value on that. So,
yeah,
how do you maintain that value of you being in that feminine energy and that divine feminine power
yeah,
in a man's world?
yeah. I really feel good in that space. I think that I don't really dabble in the idea of what's the what's the state of the world? Is this being accepted? It's always felt so good to me. And quick backstory, my father raised me. I was raised by a single father.
Interesting.
And I think that having that first teacher being a man in a masculine space really kind of said for me, like, hey, kind of this is an okay space for you to be in. It's okay for you to be a girl. And it's okay for you to be a little bit softer than me because I'll take care of these hard things. So I think that being appreciated and loved by my father, I think allowed me to just know that I was doing okay just being a woman, just being feminine. And I really think that it's a gift to the world for me to operate out of that space.
And I think it's that mindset shift that we need to be empowered in our feminine power. It's okay to not want it all. It's okay to like
Mhm.
not try to juggle everything at the same time. Like something that I've been really dabbling with and like, thinking about a lot lately is like, what is my value as a woman if I don't choose to have kids? And if I also don't become successful in my career?
Mm,
And I don't want to work a lot. I don't want to raise
yeah.
children. So
Mhm.
like where is my place in the world?
Mhm.
So do you ever have those moments where you feel like, okay, because I'm owning my womanness to this level,
Mhm.
um, do you feel any obligation of having to like do anything as a woman?
So I am a mother. I have a 15-year-old daughter, which has
That is
been.
insane. You look so young. If anyone's
Oh my
watching
God,
this right now,
thank you so much.
you literally look like you're in your 20s. It's insane.
I'm 37. I'm
Wow.
37. Yeah. So
Damn, girl. Drop
yeah.
that
So
skincare routine.
yeah, we have so much fun. I'm like, she's my sister. She's my
Oh,
sister,
that's
and we both have
amazing.
like the fun curls, and she's
Oh,
funny, and we do amazing. So
that's
honestly,
awesome.
truly, I having my daughter and cultivating her and just kind of being around while she's growing has been so, so, so beautiful for me. Yeah, I do feel very embodied in my femininity as a mother. And you do
Mm,
have a good point to say, well, if you're not going to become a mother, or, if you don't just want to be a wife, like how's your femininity going to be
yeah.
valued? But I feel personally, for me, I really feel like it's valued through my daughter. I think that she's really taking a lot from me. And it's so funny too, because a lot of my mothering skills, I believe I learned from my father,
That's
from a man.
interesting.
My mother, unfortunately, was absent from the home. And just the energy that my father was able to exude in the home and as the man really kind of just, it almost put in some missing puzzle pieces for me, kind of like, this is how you become, this is how you're going to be a woman. I didn't really have that mother figure
Yeah.
in my life growing up.
I mean, I'm sure it must not have been easy for your father to do that as like, a single dad,
Mhm.
also being able to tap into
Yeah.
that nurturing and feminine energy himself. Like, what's his
Yeah.
background?
I never really thought about it, but I guess he did tap into a softer side with us. He was a little strict. He did pass away when I was 16 years old,
Oh, I'm
but
so sorry.
he did, yeah. But he took care of home. He took care of the hard stuff. Made sure we had what we needed, and he didn't skip a beat. I felt like he's enjoyed
That's
it, and
incredible.
yeah, it was really beautiful. I feel like my story truly starts there. Like the idea that, hey, my father raised me and this is what he built.
Do you feel like you put your dad on a pedestal in a way where you compare all your potential partners to him? Or like, how's that journey and like finding a partner when
That,
you've such a strong masculine in your
yeah.
life?
Yeah. So it's been a lifesaver. If I'm being honest, it has been like a BS detector for me. Like,
Yeah.
I guess really, even since I was a younger woman, I kind of had this very subconscious energy about me where I'm like, well, I know what it feels like to be loved by a man. I thought that's what it was. I know what it feels like to be loved by a man. So I don't like the way you feel. So it's a no for me. It
That
was
is
really just
so
helped
liberating.
me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it helped me kind of feel like I don't have to attach to this if it doesn't feel good. Like I don't have to just stick in this because this is my first relationship.
Yeah.
I know what a man feels like. I know how a man protects. I know how a man cares. So it was really a beautiful, beautiful like standard that was set, having been raised by my father.
But then do you feel like it blocks you at all? Where like, we're in this era right now where we're all healing, right? And not
Yeah,
nobody's perfect. So like, how are
yeah,
you able to have that compassion and grace for a man who may not be at his full potential of a man yet? Or like, do you just not even entertain that and you're just like, it's not my responsibility
yeah.
to help
So
you reach your full potential?
yeah, so I actually I'm not super judgmental in that way. I do feel like I've always done really well in sort of like a empathetic space. So if I connect with a partner and I feel like they're not really at their full potential, I would never feel like belittling them or, saying, hey, you're just not up to par for me. There's probably always been other things that have gotten in the way of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against working with a man that wasn't at his top potential yet. And the way that I really look at that is if I had a son and
Hmm.
he had a woman in his life like me, I wouldn't want a good woman like that to give up on my son because he wasn't there yet. I would want him to have someone like that was willing to,
Mhm.
work with him and help him through that journey and be a part of that journey.
It is such a fine balance, though, in making sure that, you're not neglecting yourself
Yeah.
to save someone else, and,
Yeah.
like, making sure that you're not letting them disrespect you,
Right.
and you saying, "Oh, well, you're still learning and growing, so it's okay." It's like, "No, no,
Hmm.
no. There's
Yeah.
boundaries, there's
Yeah.
limits, there's bare
Absolutely.
minimums that you get to
Yeah.
set
Right.
and have," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. What are some sacred practices in your sensuality or sexuality that you do on, like, the regular?
I would probably say that meditation is probably one of the more regular practices that I have.
Mhm.
I find it to be very centering for me. And my boyfriend and I suppose we've done a bit of meditating together.
Oh, that's
Maybe
awesome.
during sex a little bit, which can
Ooh,
be really nice.
explain how does that
So,
happen?
I do really love a slow sex practice at times,
Yeah.
which can be extremely arousing and very satisfying and very, very energetic and just kind of takes things to another level
Mhm.
during that sex. So that can almost feel meditative in that
That
moment.
makes so much sense, and
Yeah,
it's about connection, right? I feel like when you
exactly.
slow down, you can connect so much deeper and just be
Absolutely.
really present and
Yeah,
intentional about,
yeah,
like, the whole experience and
absolutely.
creating that container, right,
Yeah,
for that
for
connection to
sure.
happen. That's
Absolutely.
awesome, and is that something that, like, your partner was on board with right away, or, is this something that you've had to discuss to, like, ease into?
Yeah, like I feel like we were really both on the same page.
That's
There
awesome.
wasn't a lot of discussion, but we both really enjoy the the energy transference that happens for us during sex, and
Yeah.
we very oftentimes have moments where after sex we're kind of just like having this really fun after action review where we're like, oh my god, that was so incredible when this, and that was so powerful, and oh my god, like did you feel that? And it's just real, and it always feels so different, and it's always very fresh. And I feel
Wow.
like that comes from me really embodying that receptivity in the sacred
Mhm.
sex and really the way that I practice like receiving him and the way that I honor and love and value him. And it's the same. He's never felt to me like a man that was just in it for himself or that he wasn't enjoying the whole idea of the sex practice.
Mhm. And have you always attracted men like that? Or what did you have to do in order to call in a partner like that?
So it's very interesting. I have not connected with partners like my current boyfriend in the past, ever. It was very much just people that I felt like, I guess it lasted longer than it should have, but looking back and knowing what I know now and being able to compare, it
Mhm.
just really felt like there wasn't a true intention behind the relationship or even engaging in a sexual relationship with me. But what's actually very interesting about my current boyfriend is I actually had a shift. I felt like it must have been a download of some kind during meditation. But I had this thought of, well, Nyquii, during your pleasure practice, your fantasy is it's intercourse, it's sex. So you're fantasizing and having orgasms to these thoughts of sex and someone really enjoying sex with you. And that's what you've been getting. You've been getting men that are really happy to have sex with you. And then there's not much beyond that. So, what if you've been calling in this type of energy? Let's change
Damn,
this. Let's change the fantasy. So, in that
that's
moment, I thought,
gold.
okay, I'm going to fantasize about a man loving me, about a man covering me and honoring me and really loving me and like just really feeling so empowered at the idea of being able to be in a relationship with me. And that became my fantasy during my self pleasure practice. And to my surprise, I actually climaxed, from this sort of fantasy, and it was not sexual at all. And it
Wow.
felt powerful and it felt so open. And once I started to have those kind of meditations and those kind of fantasies in my pleasure practice, I feel like I aligned myself to meet my boyfriend now, who is all of those things.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I
It's
want to hold space for that because I want
yeah.
the audience to really feel
Hmm.
what you're saying
Yeah.
because I want to also go into the connection between pleasure or like even, masturbation and manifestation.
Yeah.
If you could share anything about that, because it sounds like that's exactly what you
Yeah,
did.
that's really what I did, and it was really a new thought for me. It was a new practice for me. I haven't done a ton of research necessarily on like any kind of sex magic, right? But I
Yeah.
knew that I felt called to maybe change your fantasy. Maybe you're calling in the wrong energies.
Hmm.
So when I
Yeah.
had that switch, it was really fascinating too because the intensity of the pleasure I received from my orgasm was so much higher than me just
Yeah.
very loosely and superficially thinking about someone inside me. Right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, hey, I want to feel this love. I want to
Hmm.
receive this authentic, feeling from a man, from a relationship, from someone really honoring and holding space for me. And it surprised me so much that I was able to even climax from that kind of thought and it not be sexual at all. And that is so interesting because we think that orgasms have to be sexual.
Yeah.
We think that orgasms have to, I've heard about orgasmic births, when women that are giving birth can have climaxing and orgasms. And,
Wow.
yeah, it's all very fascinating. And there's newer studies coming out all the time. But, we really can tap into that energy and use it in a very positive way, in my personal experience.
Do you think like men can do that too, or do you think it's something that a woman has more access to because we're more emotional beings?
I haven't given that a lot of thought. That's a good question.
So curious.
Yeah. I think I would think that it's something that women have a little bit more access to, but that's just probably me going off of us being a little bit more sentimental and more emotional and
Yeah,
really
because of
having,
course there's men that are way more in touch and in tune with their feminine side than their
yeah,
masculine, and that because they are more sensitive beings.
yeah,
Um, so maybe it is that. Like maybe it's like more of if you're more of a emotionally driven person versus
right.
a intellectually driven, or yeah, I guess it's like if you're connected to your soul and your higher self
Yeah,
versus like more ego driven and just like human based.
yeah,
And I think like what I was going to say earlier about your practice that you just shared with us is that it sounds like you were going against societal norms of
yeah,
what society has always taught us about what it means to climax,
yeah,
and you making your own rules
yeah,
on what is going to bring you pleasure.
yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
isn't that why we're all here, is to
Right.
question what works and what doesn't and
Yeah,
become
absolutely.
more of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
beautiful.
it's not a huge, it's starting to be more of a conversation, but it hasn't been a
Yeah.
huge conversation of this idea of really using orgasms for manifestation. And the way I truly look at it is, I mean, the orgasm is complex and the soul and our spirit is very complex and it's a beautiful experience. It's not harmful, to have an
Mhm.
orgasm. So there can be so much power attached to that for me. So
Yeah.
that's what I've stamped on mine, and that's the way that I practice my self-pleasure practice and my sex practice.
That's so beautiful. Have you and your partner dabbled at all in, sex magic or manifesting together during intimacy?
We have, yeah, during intimacy, we have just kind of manifesting, I guess, just during
Mhm.
like climax or
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
thinking about what we want to manifest. And really, in those spaces, I've found it difficult to take my mind out of that sexual encounter. So a lot of times in during intercourse when I'm with my partner, I find that what I'm thinking of manifesting is just like more love and like giving him love and giving him light and like blessing him and his family, versus,
Wow.
me asking for something
For
when it's my
yourself.
when it's my self-pleasure practice. It's a little bit different where I'm just kind of like wanting to receive love and light. But when I'm with him, it's more of like I want to cast these beautiful, blessings to him if that's what I can do for him right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful to see you embodying a love that is so pure
Yeah.
and that is so like what everybody's dreaming of, right? Do you have any tips for people right now who are trying to call in this kind of a union within themselves, with the self-pleasure, or
Mhm.
with a partner externally? And where is that mindset shift, or
Yeah.
where's maybe it's a somatic practice or something that is
Right.
a block, like where, if they're feeling that block, how, like, what do you recommend?
Yeah. I think really just trying to remove, just really having the thought for yourself. Maybe the orgasm doesn't have to come from a sexual thought. Maybe I can just experience orgasm because I want to experience orgasm. So starting there, I think is really helpful. And in the moment, if it's difficult to not, of course, you're not going to use pornography of any kind if you're having a self pleasure practice when you're not trying to use any sexual, enhancements or images.
Right.
So you're really going to want to just understand that you can, I guess the idea of understanding that you can reach an orgasm because you want to. That's really what it
Mhm.
would be about. And then whatever your fantasy is, just know that that's power for you. That's power for you. It's power that's coming from you, and it's power that you can receive, and just
Mhm.
bask in that and embody that, whatever it might be that you're thinking about. I'm a poet, right? I mentioned. So one of my fantasies before I met my boyfriend was kind of like, I needed to visualize something, right? So I envisioned, it was so funny because this man had no head. Like, it was like no face on this person. And I'm just like, okay, it's
Wow.
a man. It's a man, but like, it's my book signing, and like, he's going to propose to me,
Ooh.
and he's confessing his love to me, and he's telling me that I am like more than the one, and there's no one that he
Mhm.
would want to do life with other than me. Like, he has chosen that this is the soul that he wants to walk life with, and just that kind of
Yeah.
energy coming into me. And that's what I thought of. That's what the fantasy was. The fantasy was someone really exclaiming and confessing their love to me. And that's what the fantasy can be, in a sense of, let me try to call in love. It's, if someone's having an issue thinking of, all right, I'm going to try and have this pleasure practice and just kind of think about like love over and over again.
Yeah.
Paint a party, paint your dining room, paint someone talking to you with this loving energy and really, really honoring you. Really just kind of set
Yeah.
up, I want to feel this honoring and this love and this respect.
It sounds more like sensory work. Like tap into your senses, like envision a real place,
Yeah.
feel what it feels like, even like what does it smell like
Yeah.
really paint
Yeah.
yourself
Hmm.
as if you are in this place physically
Yeah.
or energetically or what have
Yeah.
you. And then you can have the scene
Yeah.
that you are craving. I
Yeah.
think that's so difficult for women who are disconnected from their bodies and their feelings and their
Right.
emotions, and who
Mhm.
have been told over and over again, you're too emotional, you're too sensitive,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
looking at emotions in such a negative light, because
Yeah.
that's the journey that I've been on for
Hmm.
so long. And it's
Hmm.
just like saying, no, my emotions are a fucking gift.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
then, like, I
Mhm.
mean, without my emotions, I have no idea who I am and what I'm doing with my life.
Right.
Like, I'm just a zombie.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. Like, I want to experience the human experience. I want to
Right.
like fully experience being
Right.
human.
I'm not on autopilot, like really immersed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And have you ever been on autopilot?
I think I probably have.
Hmm.
Probably as a younger person, where I just kind of was like, okay, yeah, I would say, yeah, I think I have, when I kind of stepped out on my own,
Mm.
as a young adult living on my own, and it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to work and I'm going to just kind of survive.
Yes.
I'm just going
Yeah.
to survive. And I felt very much like I was just kind of following a programming and doing things that I thought I was supposed to do, and not really ever thinking about like, hey, what do I want? What do I want to experience? What do I want to feel? How do I want people to understand me? At a
How did
point
you begin to that journey, like that, like getting off of
off of
autopilot
that.
and coming into that awareness
Okay.
to even ask
Hmm.
yourself those questions?
So I think it was two parts. I think when I started to write poetry, I started to really slow down some things. And when I started to
Yeah.
write, I'm like, hey, like I'm good at this. Like I like this. I created that space to even find out that, hey, there's something here. Like I have a skill here. And another one, actually, it's a funny story. I think it was my Kundalini awakening, but doctors and professionals would have called it me having a panic attack, but it came out of nowhere.
Put you in a psych ward.
Yeah, a panic attack that came out of nowhere for me. And the doctors are like, all right, we just think this must have been a panic attack. But I felt this like heat travel through my entire body, and it scared me. It scared me. And I think I created psychologically a bunch of other symptoms. But to me, something spiritual was trying to say, hey, Nyquii, like, it's time to do something else.
Yeah.
So the idea that I thought, well, maybe I'm having like panic attacks kind of took me into a shift of, more natural health and holistic health, and really kind of saying, well, wait, maybe my life isn't right. Maybe I could be on a different path. I'm doing okay, but I could be doing better. So I really started to tap into like what I was interested in, what I wanted to be feeling, and how I wanted people to understand what my role was here.
That's incredible. What year was that? Do you remember?
Probably when I don't remember what year.
Okay.
Like 8 years ago.
And then from that moment, since then, like, have you ever had moments where you're like doubting this Kundalini awakening or spiritual experience, or like what was that embodiment process like, an integration process like?
Yeah, I think it was gradual. I think I really just over time, I didn't ever have any moments where I'm like, all right, like what's next? What's happening? Like I think I just received.
Let it flow.
I just let it flow, and it's constantly flowing for me. And life, took some shifts for me. And I actually had an injury in 2021 that actually kind of, and just being myself, I kind of was like, all right, this sucks. Like my leg's going to be a little bit messed up, but I can sit down and like publish my poetry book now. I took that as an opportunity to like give this poetry book to the world, and then and that's right around that time was also when I felt like I was receiving this idea that maybe I was calling in the wrong energies into my life as far as a partner goes. I think a week after I published my poetry book was when I met my boyfriend, who I am so in love with.
Wow.
And I used to be like, oh my God, babe, like I gave the universe my beautiful, vulnerable poetry collection. And then it like gave me you because I like changed the world,
Yeah,
like,
100%. Because we're giving and receiving constantly, right?
Yeah.
And, just the way we are dancing with a partner in our external, our partner is simply a reflection of the divine masculine, full energy, responding to our inner world and our inner energy.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
This has been so fascinating. I am so excited to go do a pleasure practice that doesn't revolve with intercourse. How can my audience find you or work with you? Or is there anything else you'd like to share?
So my website is desiredifferent.com. So I am a sacred sexuality coach. As you can tell, I'm obsessed with, with like how to have more orgasms and the idea of no orgasms to many. And my belief truly, because I had that experience, I really believe that I was having a block, right? I think I was having a block, and I removed that block. So really, in a nutshell, sacred sexuality might seem like, oh, what is that? It's weird. I don't understand. But I'm really hoping to help women remove blocks that they're having so they can really tap into a more spiritual sex practice and really embody what it means to have sex as a woman. So my business is Desire Different. So the website's desiredifferent.com. And I also am releasing and finally starting my very own podcast this month.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Excited.
Yes, thank you so much. So that'll be called Desire Different Podcast. So
amazing.
You can find me there. And it's really, it's going to be me just kind of sharing my journey and my story and myself, and just lots of information. I really want to reach clients and connect with women organically and authentically.
Yeah, same.
So with the podcast, I just really want people to say, hey, that's who Nyquii is. That's who Nyquii is. And I like what she has going on, and maybe we can connect, so I think showing people who I am and really sharing myself might help. A lot of women are still very uncomfortable having conversations about sex. you know?
Yep.
So,
I think it's growing for sure,
yeah,
but I do believe that it's just starting.
yeah,
It's like we haven't even chipped
yeah,
at the tip of the iceberg yet.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, and there's so much
yeah,
information
yeah.
that, and we're still learning and growing
Oh,
and,
yeah,
you know, receiving more and more downloads about this whole experience
yeah,
ourselves, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just like this hopefully ever growing, ever evolving
yeah,
thing that can be
absolutely.
sustainable. And it could be our messages and our platforms can be here for the future generations so
Yeah,
that they can learn it
yeah,
quicker and
for sure.
easier.
Yeah. And I'm hoping with the podcast to just, I have so much to say, just in general, as a woman, as a mother, as a woman who's
Hell
embodying
yeah.
femininity. So, I really want women to say, all right, I like what she's about. Like, I'm okay doing a discovery call. Because on my website, the
Yeah.
first thing I recommend women do is book a free discovery call. And we can
Yeah.
just have a little chat and find out, is this something that you would be interested in? Are you ready? And it's
Mhm.
all information based. We do like a video call, and it's been really helpful for a lot of clients. So it's really something I'm passionate about.
Okay, amazing. Well, I'm going to drop all your links below. So if anybody wants to follow you, they can find you there.
Okay.
And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.